All right. So I've just started the recording for today, and I'm going to be covering chapter or section 2.2 in the book. This recording is for our fifth participant mostly, but obviously you can also go back and review recording. So anyway, the Canvas has a copy of the file that I'll be, the Excel file that I'll be using for the demonstration today, and also a copy of the PowerPoint. All right, I'm going to open up the PowerPoint first. And everybody can see it? Chapter 2? Yeah. All right. All right, so this is chapter 2, which deals with visualization of data, basically charts. And now, the types of charts that we'll be learning about in chapter 2 is the histogram, and actually the chart itself, not the visual display, but the chart itself is called the frequency distribution. We're going to learn how to do a relative and cumulative frequency distribution. And then next time we'll talk more about the stem and leaf and a couple of other charts that are in chapter 2, including the dot plot and this. Now the scatter diagram, I'm actually going to leave towards the end of the course because that's more appropriate for what we call regression, and that's the last topic in the course. So we're not going to cover the scatter diagram now. It doesn't really make much sense to cover it now. Contingency tables, probably I might just introduce you to them, but that also will be later, probably later. All right, okay. All right. There's some terms that the book uses: data array, an orderly presentation of data, neither ascending or descending numerical order. That's just a definition they're making. I don't really see this definition in other books that I've used. Frequency distribution is a table that represents the data in classes. These are qualitative classes that divide the data set up into these groups or classes, and that we count the number of observations in each class. That's basically what it is. All right, so it's a pretty simple thing to understand, I hope. And I'll show you how to do it in Minitab. And you know, last time I think I mentioned something about using a calculator, but I think we should learn how to use Minitab for this because I think Minitab will do it in a good way. So now here's some definitions or terms that are used when we talk about frequency distributions. The term class means a category. All right, a category. Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, the display that you're sharing, I think, might be the wrong one because right now it's not showing the actual presentation. It's just showing the outline, like you're looking at it in PowerPoint, but you haven't hit F5. So
F5.
If you're sharing your display with us, we can only see the first slide really and the slide outline.
Oh, I've done this. I did something like this yesterday.
No, it just jumped to the correct slide.
It did.
Okay.
But I think the slideshow should work. I had to do this the other day too. I had to go out and then back in without F5 or anything, and it worked. It was. I don't understand why it does that. Last semester when I used PowerPoint in Zoom, I didn't have any of the issue like this at all. It would follow along with PowerPoint. So I don't know why it's doing this. All right, anyway, you can see this next slide, right? Sturgis's rule, did you see that? You see that? Han, can you see it? And you're
sort of.
You're still on the last slide.
Yeah, I just moved it. Now, if I move it forward, do you see this new one?
It's not moving.
No.
Go on key terms.
So I'm not sure why it's doing that. Wait a minute. Enable editing. Maybe it's in protected view. Oh, that might be it. I'm going to actually get it out of protected view. Maybe that's the issue. Okay, let's try it again. That might be it. Now, I'll put it in. You see the key terms, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I move it forward, do you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was in protected mode, and that was why it didn't allow me to move forward in the slideshow. I think that's probably what it is. All right, just tell me if, I'll mention when we move forward, and you'll let me know whether you see it or not. All right, so we have class, which is another name for category. Frequencies, the count or number in each class. The class limits are the boundaries for each class. So each class will have an interval of values. All right. So the endpoints are called the class limits. The width of the each class, and notice how far apart are the endpoints. It's called the class interval. And then I've never seen this term before, class mark. This is again, this book mentions this term. It's really the midpoint of each class. In other words, you can take the two endpoints of the class and average them, and it'll be the value, exactly in between the 2 points. Well, it's very easy to figure out. I'll show you how to figure it out. Now, this I've never seen before, but and it's actually not in the book. They mention it in the PowerPoint. That's why I wanted to show you the PowerPoint for you to have it. Typically, in a problem with creating a histogram or a frequency distribution, you sort of like choose at random the number of bars that you will see in the histogram. But sometimes it's sort of trial and error to figure out how many bars or classes that you want. So there's this formula here. K is equal to 1 plus 3.322 times log to the base 10 of n, where n is the number of observations in your data set. Okay, so this can be done actually in the Minitab with the Minitab calculator. If you have your handheld calculator, as long as it's scientific, there is a button for LOG, which is for log base 10. Are you all familiar with logarithms? You sort of know what they are? Steve knows. How about Mo? Mo, yes, you're familiar with it?
Yeah.
Good. And Rose, you can nod your head, you're in the, okay. And Han, yes. So you all know about logarithms, the inverse of the exponential. And this is for base 10, they're using base 10. All right, so you just plug in n, the number of observations in your data set, and you come up with this number, k. And then what you should do is just round it to the next whole number, all right? And that'll give you the number of classes that you should have based on the number of observations. All right? So it's just a helpful little tool here. I've never seen it before in any other book. Never heard of it until I saw it here, but it seems to be useful. All right, so we'll keep that in mind when we create our histogram in Minitab. So how to construct a frequency distribution. So basically, you can construct the frequency distribution first. You can also do that in Minitab. And although Minitab doesn't have a feature that shows you how to do it, you can actually do it in the spreadsheet. Again, I'll show you how to do it. You choose the number of classes. Again, I will recommend using Sturgis's rule. Maybe I'll just say, just use it. Estimate the class interval. Notice how wide the class is. So how do you figure that out? Well, you take the largest value in the data set and subtract the smallest value in the data set. That's called the range. You'll learn about that later. And then divide it by the number of classes that you calculated in step number 1. Then what you should do is round, and the book doesn't really say to do this, but you really should just round up. When I say round up, I mean even if you come up with a whole number, just round up to the next whole number. So whatever decimal you have, round up to the next whole number. If when you do this division, the range divided by the number of classes, if you get a whole number, round up to the next whole number. And the reason I say that is because you typically need to do that if you want to include the last value in your data set, the largest value in your data set. It seems to be necessary to do that in most cases. All right, so this is what I mean, step 3, round the estimate to a convenient value. And again, I would recommend rounding up to the next whole number. All right, you can see this next slide with step number 4. You see it? Yes, all right. Lower class limit. Now, they say to come up with a convenient number that's smaller than the lowest data value. This is where here you might need to fiddle with it a little bit, and I'll show you why when I get to the demonstration. So I'll show you how that works. And then, of course, once you get the first lower class limit, then all the other endpoints will come from that, because you're going to be adding to that initial lower class limit, you're going to add the class width, class interval to that value for the beginning of each of the other classes. Again, don't worry about what I just said. I'll demonstrate it. All right. All right. So let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, we'll look at this in a few minutes, converting to a relative frequency distribution. All right. So I'll show you how to do that in Minitab. All right. So I'm going to go into Minitab. Now, I again posted in Canvas for this week module. I posted the Excel spreadsheet. So if you are able to open up Minitab, if you're able to go to Canvas and download that Excel file to your hard drive, then you'll be able to open it up in Minitab. So you can take a minute and do that. If you'd like to, follow along doing it yourself during this demonstration. So I've already, of course, downloaded it. So I'm going to do File Open. And I believe it's this one right here, CX02SPEE. I believe that's the one. I'm going to double click that. There it is. Notice that the title of the variable is speed. It has a whole bunch of speeds below it. And if you actually see the number here, it goes down to 105 in here, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So anyway, remember up here it says first row to import, row 1. So we want the row where the title is to be imported. So that's fine. Row 1 will work. We'll click OK. And notice it shows up in column number 1. This is unsorted, the values in here. Now, if you want to know, without scrolling down, if you want to know how many values are in this data set, of course, if you remember from the quick start, you just do data, scroll down to worksheet information, and it says for column 1, there's 105 values.
Professor, you're still.
Oh, no, I forgot. That's right. You're not seeing any of this, are you? Sorry about that. Well, yeah, try to catch me a little earlier. All right. Sorry about that. I'll have to do that again. I have to remember. somebody should fix this so that people can just move, you know, with screen share on, you can move from one thing to the next without having to re-enter screen share. You can see it now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So what I did was I went to File, Open, found this file and double clicked it, and then let's actually do it again. I'm going to close it, and I'm going to I'm actually going to delete all the cells. I'm going to start again. You can see it. Once again, I did File, Open. It was CX02SPEA. Double clicked it, and then opened it. It always opens here before you download it into Minitab. So you want to make sure that the first line that you download is the title, in this case, speed. So I want that to be the first line, and it is line number 1, row number 1. It says a 1 up here, so that's good. And notice speed shows up in this area here, which is where the title of the column is, speed. All right. Once again, the values are not in any order, not in any sorted order. All right. Now it showed up here, not under class project. So I'm going to delete this worksheet class project. And this sheet I don't need. I'll delete that too. And then this one I'm going to call, what should I call it? Class project. I think I called it before. Class project. Okay. All right, and I'm going to see if I can just shift this over here. Yep. All right, there we go. You see what I did, right? To move it, you can move the tabs over by just holding it down and moving it over. All right, now when we want to create a histogram, what we want to do is, number one, we want to calculate the number of classes that we want. Now, there is a calculator in Minitab, right here, calculator. Under calc is calculator. All right, and I'm going to delete because it saved what I did last time. All right, so I want to actually, I want to save C2 here. I'll show you in a minute what I'm going to do in C2. I'm going to use C4 here. And so in C4, now it says store the result in a variable. And if there's nothing in that column, then it'll just put the answer in the first row of that column. So I'm going to put C4 here. I'm going to store the result of that calculation, that's Sturgis's formula. Now, what was that again? It was 1 plus, maybe you can help me out. What was it, 1?
1 plus 3.322.
All right, so you do everything here, 3.322 times, right?
Yes.
Times, and then the natural log. Now, where do you find the natural log? They have a whole bunch of functions here. So just scroll down until you find, well, here we go. We have 2 logarithms. Well, they have log base 10 here. I don't know if they do. They probably have the natural log in here. Let me see if it's here. We may want to use it. Yep, here it is. They see it, natural log base E. So if you ever need to use that, it's there. We're going to
The
use
PowerPoint says base 10.
base 10, right? So we're going to use this one, log base 10. Choose it, hit select. Notice it shows up right here in your formula. And here, inside here, you're going to put in the number of values in your data set. Remember what that was when we did that earlier? Anybody remember?
105.
105, right? And you remember how I figured it out? We went to edit here, right? Edit, and then we went to worksheet information. And that gives you the number of values in your data set. That's a quick way of figuring it out. All right. Now, we always want to assign it as a formula. If I would say, check this box here, assign as formula. And I seem to have, there's my cursor. This box right here. And that way, if you ever want to make a change in here, you want to use the same spreadsheet and make a change, then it'll automatically recalculate this whole formula. All right, hit OK. And notice it comes out to 7.71439. So this is an estimate of the number of classes that you should use when you have 105 data points. And I would just round it up to the next whole number, 8. Okay? Make sense? Just round it up to the next whole number. We're going to use 8 classes for this. All right. Now, how should we do this? How should we create? We're going to create the frequency distribution first. And I'll show you what it looks like. All right. Now, how do we find quickly the smallest value in the data set and the largest value in the data set? Because we have to figure out what the class width is, right? The class interval value. So the quickest way of finding it is go into Stat, Basic Statistics, Display Descriptive Statistics. Now you do have under Statistics button here, you could click that, and there's other things you could list besides what's checked here. What's typically checked is the mean, the standard error, which we'll learn about later, the standard deviation, the minimum and maximum. Well, we want that for our calculation, so it's there. N is the number that's non-missing, and then the number is missing also, and then there's a total if you wanted to check that. There's percent, and there's all sorts of things that you can choose from. But in this particular case, we're just going to choose what's checked, and we'll click OK. And notice the variable is automatically speed, right? But if there was more variables, you choose it. You choose it and then select. All right. So again, N105 is shown here again, right? There's your non-missing values. There's no missing values. It would show up here if there was missing. Okay, and star. Here's your mean, and there's these other things we might use later. But for now, the maximum is 88.5, and the minimum is 48.4. So in C5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate, using the calculate feature, I'm going to calculate the width, or the approximate width, and then we'll round that up to the next whole number. All right, so click calculate and do calculator. I'm going to move it so I can actually see these numbers. And I'm going to put it in C5. So I'm going to change my storage result. I'm going to store it in C5 instead of C4, because if I put C4 there, it'll just replace what I did before, which I don't want to do. Get rid of this formula. What I want to do is I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, and I'm going to subtract the maximum minus the minimum. I'm going to put 88.5. Again, I can do everything inside here. I don't need to use my keyboard. Minus 48.4. And then scroll over, and I'm going to divide that by what? What number am I going to divide that by?
8.
8, yeah. A number of classes, right? So this is the range. The numerator is the range. It's the maximum value minus the minimum value. And then I'm going to divide by this number rounded up to the next whole number, which is 8. I'll put 8 there. I'll keep it as a formula. There's no reason why I shouldn't. And I'll click OK. And then it was 5.0125. So what should my class width be? Round up to the next whole number? 6, right? Should be 6. When I say round up, I don't mean use the normal rounding rules. I mean round up. That means whatever number he is here, just go up to the next whole number, whatever it is. All right? Now the book, if you look at this example, it picks 5. And then it ends up with 9. Once you do it, it ends up with 9 classes. Well, what's the point of calculating this over here if you end up with 9 classes, right? It doesn't make any sense. So I really want 8 classes, and I want each class to be 6 in length, 6 units, 6 miles per hour in length, all right? The difference in that interval. All right, now, if I was going to show you how to do this with a TI 83 or 84 calculator, there's a certain procedure I would show you, but it's really unnecessary in this case here because you could do everything in Minitab. And what I'm going to do now to make this task easy, because really what you're going to be doing is creating 8 categories, right? Starting with a number that's less than the smallest number in the data set, right? Each category will be up to 6 units in length. And then you'll have 8 of these. And then you're going to count the number of values in your data set that are in each category. Now that's a little tedious to do if the data set is unordered. So what am I going to do? What would be your suggestion? Unordered, so what should I do? How about ordering the data set, sorting the data set? It will just make your life a little easier to count the number of values in each class, right? So how do you do it? You do it in Calc. Calc has that feature. So go Calc. And I'm going to put the order data set in C2. I'll get rid of this expression. And then under functions, I'm going to look for the word sort. And there it is. See it? Sort. Now there might be ascending sort. I don't know if they have it. No, they don't. I think the only sort they have here is ascending. It's just sort. All right. I don't think they have a descending sort, but that's okay. I don't think I ever use that anymore. It's a sort. It's select. And what it's going to ask for is the column number that you want to sort. So I want to put the result in C2. I don't want to replace C1 because I want to keep the data set the way it was in case there's some error or something later. I still will have the original data. So I'm going to put in here sort C1. I'll do C. Actually, I have to use my keyboard for this. So I'm going to say C and 1. I'm going to sort C1. I'm going to put it in C2. Hit OK. There it is. Okay. Nice little feature. Now I have it's sorted the sorted data set. So what I'm going to do now is I know what so it starts off with the minimum value of 48.4. I'm going to show you a couple iterations of this process of creating the frequency distribution table in this case here, and I'll show you why I came up with the result that I did. So one thing you could do is start the first class of this table, this frequency distribution table, with the whole number that is less than, or the whole number that's closest to that is less than 48.4, which is 48. So if I type in here 48 and then put a put that in there, 48.2. And remember my width has to be 6, right? 6. So I'm going to add 6 to that and I'll get 54. If I hit enter, notice it automatically becomes a text column, right? It's not numeric anymore because of that, what I put in there, 48 and to 54, right? I could have typed in the word 2 there also. But that's an alpha character between 48 and 54, so it automatically makes it text. Now, the way to read this is that I want this class to be starting at 48 and going up to, but not including 54. Does that make sense? 48 up to 54, but not including it. So if you have a value in your data set that's 54, it would go into the next class, starting at 54. The next one's going to be 54, and again, adding 6 to it, you get 60. Hit enter, and then continue doing that. So you end up with, the next one would be 60 to 66, 66 to 72. Oops, didn't want to do that. 72 to 78. How many classes do we have now? 5, right? And then we have 78 to 84. And then we have 84 to 90, right? Now, how many classes have I created so far? I've created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. All right, I think I just have to be very easy with this here. Yeah, this thing is very, all right. You know what I'm going to do? I think what I'm going to do is make this all text. There we go. You can see it more easily. So that's one thing. Instead of staying in this mode here, why don't we just move it to all the data only? We can see before we do that, 88.5 is the maximum value. We want to make sure we include that, which would be in this last class here. But how many classes do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I said originally I wanted 8, right? So this is not quite right because I want 8 classes. I mean, this will work, obviously. But if I said I wanted 8 classes, I mean, you could say 7. I mean, 7.7, you could choose 7 or 8. And you can go with this if you wanted to. But if I chose 8, because that's what I divided the range by, I should use 8. So it seems like I should start with a number smaller than 48. 48.4 is the smallest number in the data set. And if you try some other numbers like 47 and 46, and still you don't end up with where you want to. But if you do 45, if you start at 45, you'll end up with 8. And that's what I ended up with, 45 through 51. That includes the smallest value. And then 51 to 57, 57 to 63, then 63 to 69, 69. Let me know if I'm making any mistakes here, because again, I'm kind of zoomed out, so easy for me to make a mistake. 75 to 81. And then we have 81 to, if we add 6, 87. That's still smaller than the largest number, right? And now 87 to 93. Notice that that'll work, right? Because we the smallest value will be in the first one, and the largest value will be in the last one, and I have all 8 classes. So you have to fiddle with it a little bit. You see what I'm talking about? You just come up with a value that's less than the smallest value so that you end up with the smallest value in class 1 and the largest value in the very last class that you picked. All right? And now, the question is, Now this here, I'm going to title what? Classes, right? I'm going to put my cursor in there and just title it classes. The next one will be frequency, right? So I'm going to type in frequency. Nice about this program is when you hit enter here, it automatically expands the column for you. You know, in Excel, you have to sort of like double click or something to expand the column. It does it automatically for you. Now, this is where sorting the data set will make this easy, because what you need to do now is count the number of values in your data set that are between that start at 45, go up, but do not include 51. How many are there?
2.
2, 48.4 and 50.8. So I'm going to type in 2 here. 51 to 57. Well, there's 1, 2, 3. Well, I don't know if I need to count them. I have to say, all right, 51.7 is in row 3. And then I look for the last one, right? Which is 56.9. Now, 57 is going to be included in the next class, right? It does not get included in class number 2. Because it says 51 up to, but it does not include 57. So we're going to include 51.7 up to 56.9. 56.9 is in row 16. 51.7 is in row 3. 16 minus 3 plus 1 is 14. Notice why I have to do plus 1, right? Because I want to include the last one. The 16 minus 3, so it's 16th row, minus the 3rd row, which is 13, plus 1 is 14. There's 14 here. 57 to 63. So 57, oh, geez, all right. Here we go. 57 to 63. We start at, now be careful, don't use the first row, the first column, use the second column. So we start at 17 and go down to 63. So this is row 17, and then 63, right? Row 17. Row 43. 43 is where 62.8 is. That's the last one that's below 63. So row 43 minus row 17. 43 minus 17. 26 plus 1 is 27. Is that right? 27?
Yes.
Arithmetic, right? Okay. Then 63 to 69. Row 44. Remember, look, there's another 69 here, right? So that's not going to be part of it. That's the next class, right? So 63 to 69, that's row 44 to row 63, and that's 20, right? 20 numbers there. 63 minus 44 is 19, plus 1 is 20. So far, so good? Am I doing it right?
Shall we include the 69 at this range?
No, because 69 goes in the other one. Remember, the way to read this is 63 up to, but not including 69. Right?
69 is at 63, the,
No.
the number of 69.
69, it's just, these are the classes. It says the speeds. These are speeds. I want to count the number of speeds that are between 63 up to, but not including 69. There are 20 of them. 69 will go into the next class because it starts at 69 and goes up, but does not include 75. See how it works?
Yes.
All right. So look at it this way. You'd say, if you were going to write this up, you would write it as, I want to find a number that is greater than or equal to 63 and less than 69, if I was going to write it, in algebra notation.
Professor, I don't think that's what she meant by 63. She meant that it was the 63rd number in the
Yeah.
list. That 69 was the 63rd number in the list of speeds that we were given.
Was that what you're
But you
referring to?
accidentally counted that.
Yes.
Did I count less?
I think that you counted one more.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
one
should be
more.
19.
Oh, all right. So you're saying it should be 62.
Yes.
All right, thank you, thank you. I wasn't sure, but this should be 19 then, right?
Yes.
That's what Han meant.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Sorry for my language.
After all that, right? After all that. You know what the problem is? Because we were looking at row 69 and the number 69 too. It made it confusing. All right. The next one is 69 to 75. All right, 69 to 75. And that starts at row 63. And 75 goes up to 83. Am I getting this right now? This is, notice if I highlight it, 83, row 83, minus row, what did we start off with again? 69, right? So 83 minus 63 is 20, plus 1 is 21. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay. Han, you'll keep me straightened up here, right? Thank you. All right, 75 to 81. All right, starts at row 84, right? 75 to 81. Row 84. To row 100. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
100, 84. So that's 16 plus 1 is 17. Is that right?
Yes.
It's a little tedious, but at least with ordered numbers, you don't. Can you picture doing this with unordered numbers? I mean, this it's like take you forever, wouldn't it? 81, you have to write like a little computer program to do it or something. The next one is 81 to 87. 81 to 87, easy in this case here because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, right? 81 to 87, there's 4. And there's only one, that's 87 to 93. Now these numbers here should add up to what? These frequencies.
105.
105, that's right. If you counted correctly, and because Han caught me there, and I would have been all confused why I didn't add up to 105, but if you add up these numbers here, you should get 105 here, right? The sum, I'll put the word sum there, 105. And if we added these, it would be 16, 43, 62, 83, 100, 105. Everybody see that? Add up to 105. Any questions? Now, suppose now there's 2 other calculations that you need to know in this section. Let me see how I'm doing the time. Yeah, we're still good. Another calculation is called relative frequency. Relative frequency has to do with, you take the frequency and divide by the total frequency. The frequency of the class divided by the total number of values in your data set gives you what's called the relative frequency. I'm going to type in REL, FREQ, oops, REL, FREQ, relative frequency. And what I'm going to do is, again, use the calculator feature here. And what I want to do is take C8. Now I'm going to store this in C9, so I have to make sure I change this to C9. Here we don't need any functions. We're simply going to reference C8. I'm going to type in C8. It knows when I type in C8 that is the column. And I'm going to divide that by, so divide by what number?
105.
105. Let's keep it as the formula. Click OK. Now, I've run through this exercise before. I want to make sure that these relative frequencies add up to what number? It says it right here.
1.
1. How did it know to do the sum right here? I don't know. It sort of knew, right? Because it knew this was the sum of these. It sort of carried over the sum over here, didn't it? I didn't ask for the sum. It automatically gave me the sum. Pretty cool that it did that, right?
I think it just divided 105 by 105.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So it wasn't magic. There's no magic here, huh? Steve, you broke the magic spell. Come on.
Known as a wet blanket, sorry.
All right. Now, what if I don't like 5 decimal places here? What I can do is right-click C9 and go down to what? Format. I think format might work. And then fixed decimal. And I want to pick 3 decimal places. Looks like it automatically defaults to 5 decimal places. The 3 decimal places would be more workable. And notice it's still at 1, right? If I do 2 decimal places, it actually adds up with being 1.01. So I figured 3 was okay. I did 3 decimal places. So these are called relative frequency. And you can create what's called a histogram. There's 2 types of histograms you can create with this. You create a frequency histogram where the height of each bar is the frequency. And you can create a relative frequency histogram where the height of each bar is the relative frequency. It's going to look exactly the same. All right? And I'll show you how to do both. But you really have to, Minitab is not that flexible. There's some inflexibility with this. Other programs I've seen, you can really, a lot of ways of creating this. All right? So it's not easy. I mean, somebody told me it was an easy program, but it's a little clunky, I think. Now, another term that's also used is called cumulative frequency. So I'll do cumulative frequency. And then the next one I'm going to call cumulative relative frequency. And I'm just a cumulative frequency is a running total of the frequencies. Okay? In other words, for the first class, there's no other classes before it, so the cumulative frequency is 2. For the second class, it's the class's frequency plus the previous cumulative frequency. So it's 2 plus 14, which is 16. The next cumulative frequency for class number 3 is 27 plus 16, which is 43. This one, it's 43 plus 19, which is 62. You see it's like a running total. 62 plus 21 is 83. It's the next one. 83 plus 17 is 100. And the next one's going to be 104 and 105. And the last cumulative frequency should be the total number of values in the data set. Now, there's in the book, it shows there's a special chart called the ogive chart, where it's a line chart that the y-axis, the vertical, is the cumulative frequencies. We're not going to, I'm not going to ask you to be responsible for that. All right, it's not something that Minitab does. Other programs will do ogive charts for you, but not Minitab. Now, cumulative relative frequency is you take your relative frequencies and do a cumulative for it. So the first one's 0.019. The second one is going to be 0.152. See what I'm doing? Again, this number plus this is this. This number plus this is the next one. So the next one's going to be 0.409, I think, if I'm adding her up right. So it's 0.152 type plus 0.257. The next one's going to be 0.181 plus 409, which is 0.59, right? 0.59. The next one's going to be plus 0.2 is 0.79. and then 0.952 plus 0.038 is 0.99, and then 0.99 plus 0.01 is. All right. See how that works? Cumulative relative frequency. Now, I believe that, again, the cumulative frequency idea here is not used in Minitab, at least this version that we're using. All right. So this is a frequency distribution chart. It's just these three columns is your frequency distribution chart. If I wanted to have or excuse me, these two columns, classes and the frequencies. If I had a relative frequency distribution chart, I'd have C7 and C9. That would be that. All right. The C7 and C8 is our frequency distribution chart. C7 and C9 is our relative frequency distribution chart. Does that make sense? So now cumulative frequencies, the reason why you want these is that you can make statements like, you could say something like, and actually relative frequencies would work better. You could say something like, what percentage of the data is less than 69? Less than 69, what would be your answer?
The cumulative relative frequency of the previous column times 100.
Okay, so you're saying 59%? Is that your answer?
The question was, how much is less than 69, you said?
Yeah, what percentage of the data is less than 69?
Oh, yeah, that's my answer, 59%.
59%, right? Because this cumulative frequency includes the relative frequency for this class plus all the others. So you'd say 59% because 59% is 0.181 plus 0.257 plus 0.133 plus 0.019. You can also ask questions in between too. You could say, what percentage is between 57 and 81? What would be your answer? How would you do it? In 57 and 81, what percentage?
I would just add up the frequency of each of those together. So 57 to 63, 63 to 69, 69 to 75, and 75 to 81.
Okay, so you did the long way. That's okay if you're not sure. One way of doing it is the percentage that's less than 81 is 95.2%. The percentage that's less than 57, right? Less than 57 is 15.2%. So 95.2 minus 15.2 gives you that percentage in between. So you can either add them up or you can just simply subtract and get the same answer. So that's the value of having this. You can answer questions like that. Okay? Now the last thing I want to show you is the histogram itself. So we're going to go to graph, and there is histogram here. Now, if you simply do the simple one without all this group stuff in the fitting, and click OK, and say it's C1. Now, we don't need to use C2 anymore. C2, right? I mean, you could put C2 here. It wouldn't matter, really. But the original data set's in C1. You might as well use it. Now, one thing that you'll notice is if you click Scale, and hopefully those of you who are using the Mac version can do this. You click Scale and click Y Scale Type. I think this is right. Notice you have a choice of frequency and percent. Now, they don't call it relative frequency here along the y-axis. They call it percent, but that's okay. because percent, you just know that you take your decimal and multiply by 100, right? It's the same thing. Now, density is something else. We might cover that later. Might show you what density means. It doesn't mean the same thing as percent in this case. But let's do the frequency one first. So we're going to do a frequency one, and we're just going to let it fly, and we'll click OK. And oh my God, look what do we get? It's like, oh, too many bars, right? Too many classes. It just gives you this sort of default. And it's starting at the wrong value, and it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Okay. So don't want that, right? I don't want that. Now, what do I want? I want 8 classes, and I want the classes to start at 57. Was it 57 or 45? 45 and go up to what number? Was it 93?
Yes.
So I wanted to go from 45 to 93, and I want 8 classes. How do you do this? Well, it's not that intuitive in Minitab. In other programs, they have little buttons, and you just choose it, and not Minitab. Minitab has to make it hard. So the first thing you do is you edit the graph. Now, you could double-click inside here. You can click it and then double-click, or you can click Edit, all right? So if you just click Edit here, Edit Graph, does the same thing. All right, now, unless you look up the instructions, I was looking at this and say, I have no idea how to change the number of bins. It's not. So if you look up, if you go into help, it tells you how to do this. What you need to do is you click one of these numbers that are here along the x-axis, and it gives you this table, this dialog box. All right. So what do? You go to binning. And what's a bin? A bin is the same thing as a class. So when they call it bins here, they mean classes. Now, unfortunately, they have what I put in here before, so I'm going to get rid of all this. I don't want. Actually, this is actually what defaulted is all this here, which is kind of crazy. Okay. Now, what do I want? I want 8 bins, and I want, or 8 classes, and I want them to be of a length 6. So the interval type for a histogram, you can either have the midpoints of each class shown or the cut points. The cut points are the beginning and ending points. Well, the only thing I've shown you so far is the beginning and ending points. So I'm going to put a cut point here. And then it says to click this button here if you want to define how many bins and so forth. So it starts at 45, right? The first class starts at 45. So I'm going to say 45. And then it says to use a colon. Again, it shows you how to do this with help. And I want to go up to 93. So what it's going to be displayed goes from 45 to 93. And then I believe you're supposed to do a slash. And then put in the width. The width is 6. So I'm going to put 6 here. All right. And then I'm going to hit OK. I hope this works. Okay, I don't know why it's sideways here. Why is it doing this? Didn't do this afternoon when I was looking at this. All right, so I'm a little confused why it's doing this type of sideways thing.
You have transpose X and Y selected under scale.
I didn't do that. It was already like that?
I think it was just an automatic checkbox thing that was already filed in there.
It wasn't that way this afternoon. All right. So, all right. So anyway, maybe I should put it over here. All right. Oh, it was here, right? Transpose? Yeah, that was not checked before. All right. So you know what happens? You created one of these other types of charts. It's the same thing, except it's going horizontal instead of vertically. All right, let's see what happens. There it is. Now, the other thing is it's only giving you the numbers every other, the end, it looks like the end point of each interval, right? Well, actually not the beginning point of each interval. Well, anyway, it's not giving you each of these cutoff points here. So how do you get these numbers to show up? Go back to that, and you have to double click again. Go back to binning, and notice here it lists the cutoff positions. So if you want more, if you wanted every, wait a minute, this is fine. All right. Not giving me all the numbers, right? I want these numbers to show up here. How do I do that? So if I choose X scale, if I choose edit, and let's see. Edit bars, maybe that would work. No, that's not working. That out. How many people are okay with the way it looks? Does it look okay? Or you like to have these numbers here?
Either way is okay. Professor, I hate to mention this, but maybe I'm alone in this. In the Mac version, none of these options are available.
They're
Yeah,
not
on the
available?
Mac you can't edit graphs.
Yeah, so like there's.
So you're telling me in the Mac version, you can't change the bins?
Nope.
That's right, yeah.
And you get all those bins and that's it?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Steve Jobs is
watching-
kind of rolling in his grave here.
That's a big gripe. Why even give this a feature if you can't, if it's just going to default to something and then you can't change it? So you can't change the number of bins.
I mean, I'm following along with you, so I could see how to do it if I were on a PC, but
Yeah.
I was going through the file that was talking about the major differences between Minitab for Windows and for Mac, and it says that there's just no graph editing capability for the initial version of Minitab.
Yeah, but we're not even editing here. We're creating a histogram based on what we want. I mean, you see what I'm saying? This is not an editing thing. It should give you the choice of bin size or the number of bins. It shouldn't just be, so you don't have any, you can't do any of this stuff I'm showing you.
No.
sorry, no.
Well, I'm not happy about that. All right, but you of course can create one of these
Yes.
by hand. Yes, you see how it's
Yes.
done, right?
Yes, of course.
So you could do this by hand. All right, so if I was going to give you guys a test, it would be unfair for the people who had the PC version to be able to do this, right? So I would have to, yeah, it wouldn't be fair. So, well, that really kind of sucks, unfortunately. All
I
right,
can change to Mac.
what's that?
I can change to a Mac.
You're gonna mean change to a PC.
So it's
Oh,
gonna
you would
be
change to
fair.
a Mac so everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
Even playing field.
I don't want you going out and buying a Mac. It's $2,500 bucks.
I do have one.
Oh, you have one.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So you have a PC and a Mac. All right.
Yes. It's just I'm using the PC.
All right. All right. Well, that ruins my night.
Sorry, Professor.
That's all right.
Sorry, Professor.
All right. No, it's okay. It's not my fault, not your fault. It's just nobody's fault. One thing I wanted to show you on here, with at least you can do this on the spreadsheet, is you can calculate the midpoint. And the midpoint is really the average of these two numbers here, 45 and 51. Unfortunately, this, yeah, you'd actually have to calculate it and just put it right in here, in the individual values here. What's the MLD there? Or that's an MI. All right. This is a text thing here. It's not going to refer this as to numeric values, 45 and 51. So you basically will have to find the value that's exactly in between. So if you add up these, now the way to figure it out is to do what? Is to find the difference between these two numbers, which is 6, and divide it by 2, which is 3, and add it to the beginning value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that would be 48. And once you figure out one of them, the rest of the midpoints are how far apart?
6.
6. So you just keep adding till you get all of them. All right? So does that make sense? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So this is pretty straightforward, isn't it? I mean, it's not. All right. That's it. So if I asked you to create one of these charts that has all of these here, you should be able to do it, right? You should be able to create classes, the frequencies, relative frequencies, cumulative relative frequencies, and the midpoints. If you can do all of that, you'll do very well on that part of the test, all right? And because you guys cannot rate the histogram this way, then I probably will focus, I will probably have to give you a histogram and ask you some questions about it, all right, instead of you creating one, all right?
Okay.
So that,
Okay.
so I'm very sad about that. Hopefully the other ones are not going to be like this too, but I have a feeling they will be, like the stem and leaf and the, well, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Was this helpful? I mean, instead of just lecturing to you, is this a good thing to do? Go through it like this,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah,
can follow
definitely.
along? Good. So what I'm going to do, now, I do have to go to a doctor's office tomorrow and have some minor surgery, but once that's done, and hopefully by Thursday, I should be better. It's not anything to be concerned about, but it's just a minor thing. I think by Friday, I should be able to give you, post some homework for history. Just give you a couple examples to try on your own, all right? And that's what you should do, just try it on your own. But again, I'm very disappointed about the Minitab thing here. It really kind of annoying a little bit that they would even allow you to use it without these features. I mean, what's the point of just defaulting to whatever they choose? It doesn't make any sense, does it?
No.
Now, if you were going to create a relative frequency histogram, then again, you go graph, go back to histogram. Now you can choose simple, right? I mean, in your,
Yeah.
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 And then you have these buttons here on this screen?
No,
No.
we just get
You don't-
a screen that says Y variable.
Yeah.
Just Y variable and that's it?
Yep.
You don't have the scale thing here? You don't have the choice here with frequency and percent?
Nope.
No.
So you don't even have that choice.
Nope.
That's it. All right. So here's the relative frequency one. Well, in this case, they put it in percentage. All right. Well, there's other things I can show you about a histogram in the graph, but if you can't do it, then it's a waste of time. All right. So I'm going to, I think the next time I teach this, I'm not going to use Minitab. I'm going to use some other program that can do everything. It's unfortunate that you already spent the money on this because I would have just asked you to get your refund. And just give you, I mean, Stata, this is the other program I have, does all of this. And it would have cost you for the semester, instead of, what did you pay for this? How much was it again?
30, 29.
What was it,
Yeah.
20,
Something like that,
29,
yeah.
$30? I think if you paid $48, just a little bit more, you would have gotten a program that does much more than this. So this is a really, I mean, the math department chose the Minitab, and then I think it sucks. So, all right. Anyway, that's it.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn off the recording. I'll turn off the sharing. And I'll turn off the recording. And again, I will be posting the homework probably Friday. So look for Friday, and then I'll give you some instructions about that, whether you need to submit it or not, right? And I don't think there's a homework part of the grade that I set up, right? I didn't set that up. I think it was just quizzes, tests, and projects, right? But the fact that Minitab doesn't work very well for you guys with projects. Now, one thing, once we get out of the graphs, I think you should still be able to do a lot of the rest of the course, all right? It should be pretty much the same for PC and Mac, so it should be all right. All right, guys, so I went over a little bit, but I hope that's okay with you. Any questions or anything about what I went over?
Nope.
And again, I'll try to do
No.
demonstrations again, pretty much every class.
Okay.
I think you'll learn a lot more. So next time, if you haven't already, finish chapter 2, and then we'll go over the other, or at least I'll attempt to go over the other graphs, and hopefully you can do at least some of them. All right. All right.